Do you know the 4 main things you should do during a meeting that you're leading? Hi, in this video we're going to go over what you should do during meetings where you are the leader. First, you start on time and you stay on task. Second, you take excellent notes. Third, you capture all the action items, who is responsible for completing them and when they're due. And fourth, ask for feedback. So when you start a meeting, you're the leader and you should be there before the meeting starts so that it starts on time. Go ahead and start on time, even if all the team members are not in the room when you start. It's okay. They can come in later, or maybe they don't show up at all. You start on time, you honor your time and the people that are in the room with you. Staying on task means that on the agenda you've set a specific item to discuss or to work through or to have a decision, and there's a certain amount of time that you've allotted for that, for participation. Stay on task as much as possible. So number 2 is take excellent notes. I usually have a note taker with me, beside me, that I can kind of see the notes that she's taking, and I can also talk to that person and say, hey, by the way, capture this as well. I prefer to have the note taker next to me so that I can see what notes she's taking, he or she, and I can also give her more direction as we go through the meeting. The third is to capture the actions, who there is responsible for doing them, and when they're due. And if it's a large meeting, I actually put the note taker next to me and the person who's going to capture the actions on the other end of the table. That's because they're going to hear different things at different times, and they'll be able to hopefully capture more. If it's a smaller meeting, like 4 or 5 people, usually the note taker in my meetings is also the person who captures the actions. Now, that doesn't prevent other people from doing the same thing, taking notes and jotting down their actions. It's just that there's either 1 or 2 people that is officially assigned to those duties. Fourth, ask for feedback. So at the end of your meeting, you might say, what would you change about this meeting? What would you like to add to, take away, etc.? And get the feedback from everyone that how you can improve the meetings going forward. Most people don't do this. They just keep droning on with meetings. And when you do this, you actually can add stuff to the agenda or just make it a lessons learned that this is how we're going to do our meetings from now on. Extra tip, end on time, but not really. What do I mean? In my meetings, I might set them for an hour, but they're actually 55 minutes on the agenda. And we're allowed to leave the room 5 minutes before maybe the next meeting starts. Whether it's a half an hour or an hour and a half, I always give that last 5 meetings for people to stand up, gather up their stuff, and get out of the room in case someone else needs to use it. I have found that I got lots of thank yous from other teams that they did not have to start late because I went to the top of the hour. I did the full 60 minutes. Some other people I've noticed have adopted that policy as well, that even though it might be an hour long, it's actually only 55 minutes. So there's one thing I find that people don't really talk about when they talk about effective meetings, and that is judgment. So you're sitting in a room full of people and you're kind of looking at all your teammates and you're wondering or trying to figure out where their headspace is or what they're focusing on. You're judging what you're seeing. We do this all the time, but especially in meetings to see who's participating, who isn't, etc. So I have a couple of stories for you about this judgment. About 20 years ago, I'm in a meeting with my boss. I'm pitching a change to a process. It's simple, but it's still a change. And it's my boss and 2 other men in the meeting. I take about 5 minutes to do my pitch, and he's doing this, and he's writing things down, and he seems not on board. The other 2 men are going, like this. So I'm like, great. The 2 men are on board. I don't have to worry about them. It's just my boss. He's saying no to me, so I'm going to pitch some more. I'm going to get more enthusiastic. I'm going to give more information. And I spent another 5 minutes doing that. Something that should have taken only a few moments to explain what was going on, maybe 3 minutes, ended up being over 10. He finally looked up and said, "You know I'm on your side, right?" And I'm like, no, the face said no. And he said, "Well, you got it wrong. And by the way, these two men who have been saying yes to you are waiting for you to be quiet so they can go to their 2 o'clock tea time for golf." So I judged incorrectly and I wasted time, not only mine, but theirs. So a few months later, the company brought in some consultants to help us do more effective meetings. And they sat a group of us, about 8 of us, around a table, gave us an exercise. We all had a script of our part in the meeting. We were going to try to pitch something to the boss. The boss was another consultant, so he wasn't somebody we were familiar with. We're sitting down at the table, have our scripts, and the boss walks in, and he's not making eye contact. His brows are furrowed. He's just looks like he's angry, and he sits down and just does this. So we're like, ooh, boss is mad. So thankfully the leader wasn't me. The leader starts the whole meeting process. We all have our little scripts. We get into about maybe 40 seconds into the exercise, and the leader stands up, covers his mouth, and walks outside. So the other consultant comes to the table and says, "Oh, what's going on?" And we're like, "We don't know. He looks angry." And we had about 7 other versions of what happened. And the consultant said, "No, it's not any of that. It's just data." And I went, "What do you mean data? Data's like stuff on a spreadsheet." He says, "No, it's just data. You cannot know what's going on with him unless you have all the facts. So you judged what you thought was going on, and I can tell you that you were all wrong." And we were like, how could we be wrong? I mean, obviously we look at this guy and know that he's either angry or upset or whatever it was. But actually what he was trying to interpret was he had a stomach issue and he's about to hurl. But none of us thought of that. We were in different places altogether. When I realized that I was probably putting a lot of stress on myself to try to figure out where people are, it just lifted a weight that says, look, it's just all data. Until I absolutely know what's going on, it's just data. Stay in your lane, do your task, participate, do your job, and it will be revealed what's really going on. It relieves a lot of stress and pressure on you to perform outside of what you really should be doing. I hope you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.